So, yeah, we are now at the end of the second day of the JavaLand conference, which means we had the pleasure to have a lot of talks and community activities, and tomorrow will be the workshop day, and one of the guys who does a workshop is Ed Burns, and he has been there in the JavaLand, JavaLand conferences for years now, so it's his fifth time already as a speaker, and we are always excited to have him here. And maybe, Ed, can you introduce yourself a bit?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Benjamin. I am excited to be here talking to you. Also excited to be here at JavaLand because I've seen the conference evolve. When it started out in 2014, it was much, more industry focused. Okay. We had much more formal kind of vendor type talks, but over the years it's getting more and more community driven. So this year it was like really great because there were so many just community focused talks, and I really liked how the JUG leaders and other local experts are sort of interpreting the news and the developments in the Java world for their local users. Okay. So I hope it doesn't go too far extreme, because then there won't be any reason for me to come from Oracle, but I hope to still be able to come. And in fact, I'm sure we will, because Oracle is recommitting to helping out with JavaLand next year to an even greater degree. Okay. So this kind of stuff I'm working on in the past was Java EE. I was the spec lead for Servlet and JSF. These are two technologies that have been around for a very long time, but they're still very stable, and a lot of enterprises are still using them. In fact, I was very excited today to be in this room here. My colleague Micha Müller gave a talk about JSF, and the room was pretty much full. Okay. And when I see something that is so old as JSF, and it still has a full room, that's pretty good. Yeah. And there was also a talk about Servlet 4.0. Unfortunately, I didn't get to attend that myself, but it's nice to see other people giving talks on the new stuff we've done with Java EE 8. Okay.
So this year it's the first time that Oracle also provided the kind of community talks with Yolanda, right? And
no, we've had it before. I remember when Java 8 came out, it actually shipped in its final form during JavaLand. Okay. So we had a live stream that Stephen Chin did from the exhibition area of the release event that they had. And 8 was like the biggest release that we've done, really, I would say ever, right? It was really bigger than 9. It was the first release that was major after the Sun acquisition by Oracle. Okay. And it was the release that was restoring the faith of the community, and it brought, of course, a blockbuster number of new features. We had Lambda and streams, and all of these kinds of things. The addition of the incubator concept. So that was cool. Okay. So Oracle's been involved quite heavily, but we've stepped back, and now we're on the road again. Okay. With JavaLand. Okay.
So. We are talking already about some topics that you're most concerned about, of course. And what will you do tomorrow in your workshop?
So tomorrow's workshop, I try to, first of all, I recognize that while I'm an expert on certain things, certainly not an expert on everything, but so what can I bring to bear that's valuable for the community? And I think it's just myself and my experience. So I have had this unique perspective on the emergence of the cloud by being on the inside of the monolith. So monolith both in terms of software and in terms of organization. So it's one thing to be on the consuming side of there is all this cloud disruption, so as a developer I'm going to just learn new things and do my existing job, but just do it differently and hopefully better. That's one thing that happens with the disruption of the cloud. But when you're on the inside of a vendor, the disruption feels quite different, because you now have to realize, the solutions and tools and work styles that we used to do are not going to be as viable anymore. So in particular, the whole notion of the monolithic app server is something that's not as seen as powerful as it once was. There's more compelling alternatives to it for enterprises now, and Oracle has certainly seen that, and we're investing heavily in the cloud with Oracle Kubernetes Engine, for example. We're going to have a completely Kubernetes native product. And
That's awesome.
volumes, yeah, it's great. And so the thing I'm working on now, after being done with Java EE, is a cloud-based state service. So it is basically a very high scalability replicated data grid that gives several different data structures access to the users. So, you know, it's basically a cloud map. That's what we're calling it, cloud map. So to get back to the disruption thing, and the perspective I'm trying to bring to the class tomorrow is, here's how you did a bunch of stuff with an app server conceptually. How is it different in the Kubernetes world?
Okay. Sounds great. So what excites you most when you're at JavaLand, when you give a workshop, or when you give a talk?
Well, it's again the community aspect. So one of the things they've always done, and it's gotten more and more involved each year, is the early adopters area. So Andreas Sept and Andreas Badelt do a really great job of organizing that, and they're both two great guys. And I like it because it's a chance to bring the stuff I'm working on, which isn't released yet. The cloud map stuff, I can demo it, and we have some command line tools that I can sit down and show people, but it's not able for me to put it on their machine yet. So they can sit next to me, and I could either put the machine in front of them and they can test it, or I could just demo it to them. But the ability to talk one-on-one is really great.
Okay. So maybe to close the nice interview, we always ask the guys three words to describe the conference and the experience they have here, and so you can just provide 3 tags, and what would they be for you? Maybe also in particular for that year, you can just align it as you like.
Well, I would put, let's see here.
It's a tough question, I know.
Yeah, sure. Friendly, foodie, fun. That's what I would say. So the most important thing being the friends. I've made so many great friends coming to the JavaLand and DOAG over the years. And so for me, it feels, I don't know if they feel that way, but when I come, it feels like a reunion of sorts. And I'm always happy to see them, and they feel happy. It seems like they're happy to see me. Of course, the food is amazing here at JavaLand, and the fun, which will also encompass the talks. You know, the reason we're all here is the technical content, but it's also the friends too. Okay,
so thanks a lot
for
being here.
Thanks.
It was a pleasure to have
Well, likewise. Thank you.
And we'll see how it goes the third day.
Okay.
Awesome. So now we are back, and now it's the other way around.
Yeah.
Ed also, of course, has some question. How does the community perceive Java? And
yes, but also that I know you're doing quite a lot with Docker, and one of the things I wanted to check out with you was along the lines of Kubernetes being the app server, but more. It seems like in order to be proficient with this new way of doing things as a developer, you have to have a lot more stuff in mind. When I was, this is again part of the disruption thing. When I was working on WebLogic and on Glassfish, it was like, you didn't have to worry about service discovery because you're in the same app server. You didn't have to worry about different load balancing strategies because it was just simpler. So,
and resilience patterns, everything.
Right, the container just dealt with it for you. So, do you think the complexity that we're forcing the developers to take all of this more stuff into their mind, are they able to handle it? And 2, is it worth the complexity, do you think?
So from a business perspective, what's really exciting about this evolvement is that the deployments can get very fast, and you can go live in very, in just a second.
So it's agility.
So it's agility, and besides that, you can also align a bit more to the Conway's law. So you can form the team a bit better in the DevOps culture, where you have like kind of a T-shape, but everyone is more like a DevOps, and you can make the teams a bit more independent. So that's one aspect, which is really a big goal to achieve also in larger organizations, where you can cut out a lot of the complexity by decoupling. And that loose coupling part, that's one thing that I think, for me, it's worth it. But when I look besides the conferences and besides the user groups, where normally just the quite active engineers go to, so that you have the peak like a long tail, you know, and so it's quite tough to fit in that whole knowledge management inside of the workflow of sprint or whatever you're working on, and therefore for us we are now currently working with the community of practice, what I can tell, and this works out very fine, but for junior developers it's pretty tough now to get in. So when we onboard a person, for example, this takes 3 months normally, even if they already have a Java background, which is horrible, and therefore I hope that we are, as also Holly already pointed out, that we will now achieve a level, or as Josef Ansberger pointed out, we will now achieve a level that it gets more mature. Now I think we had a very fast development, and now should be more about the details and best practices and how we can handle it, and more focus on that, and then just so that the engineers can skip looking in all directions. So that we can condense it and really come up with some wise maybe maps or whatever, so that there are established stacks where they can align to, and then just know, okay, here and there, okay, that's also nice to have, that you know best practices for writing Docker files, but in general it's not it's not that kind of a big deal. It's a lot to consume, for example, but or to learn, but it's not on your daily business. When it's established the infrastructure, then it also just runs, and then when you get the task, you can include this into your sprint. Okay, now I will take care of optimizing our infrastructure in that direction, so I will maybe create a learning day inside of a sprint or whatever, or just announce it. That might be a strategy that could work. And do
you think that the patterns will emerge? So it seems like this might be another way that disruption is playing out, with like you drop a stone into the lake and the ripples go through, and I'm feeling them on the inside and you guys are feeling them on the outside, and having to change the way you work, and having to make the pipeline such a more essential part of the developer workflow. I mean, when continuous integration first came out with Jenkins and Hudson, it was not the entire backbone of everything. But now the CI/CD pipeline is the whole thing.
It's really substantial. It's also a topic which I care a lot about, because I worked in the automation team before, and then now I also took part of our pipeline a bit, and we have totally have it as infrastructure as code, everything. So you can spin up a Docker container, Jenkins comes up, and then we have C job, and it deploys all the other jobs. And of course, you have to know Gradle, you have to know Docker, you have all the other things, how to write plugins, and also customize it. But I think they will get more mature. In Jenkins, it's quite still a bit hacky, because you have to come up with a lot of concepts on your own. For example, how you would use the floating tag when you have your several multi-stage builds, which are also not so long time ago that they were available with Jenkins 2.0. Because there were also two concepts, Jenkins DSL and the pipeline plugin. And, but it gets better, and I think also other CI/CD servers, they're quite good in dealing with it. For example, from JetBrains, I think they already include a Docker registry now when you try to use their CI server. And
is it TeamCity, or what is their thing called? I forget.
I think it's TeamCity. I just barely use it. I have used it in the past.
Right now we're using GitLab.
Yeah, and GitLab is really
GitLab has a really good one.
They're really great currently because they can unify the whole experience. You have the repos, you have the pipeline, and they come up with their job description quite early. And YAML is also a great way when you look at what's it called, Circle CI, which I also
Circle CI. Yeah, I haven't tried that.
It's quite small. It's more just for single jobs because you cannot do job chaining, which is normally substantial. Yes.
Right.
And but there is happening a lot, and
So I just wonder if we're going to get to the point where I used to find enjoyment in writing, actual code that would get things done. But it seems like in the cloud world, a lot more of it is about infrastructure and sysadmin type stuff, and I don't enjoy that nearly as much. And I wonder if other people who used to be developers, now they're like, I have to do all this DevOps stuff. And I really would just like to get back to writing my services.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe that's just my perspective.
Of course. It depends on the personal perception, I think, as always, of course. But, I was excited to have the chance to learn more when Java 9 came out, when Kotlin came out, then Java 8, and before, and I was really into it. And then before I had to learn a lot about application servers, and I worked a lot with JBoss, for example, and then this was also kind of a learning curve there, and now we shrank that down, and we do not have to take care a lot about this part anymore, and then we got also some free space here. And if you have the learner mentality, and I think learning is not something that should be just on point, but it's a continuous thing.
Of course, it has to be.
If there wouldn't be any new things coming out, then I would look into other directions or improve something here and there. And if you have that spirit, or you just implement it in your work-life balance.
It's a habit,
It's, establishes as a habit, then it's fine. And then I think for these kind of developers, it's cool to also play with the infrastructure. And it's also a lot of, when we look at the conferences, all conferences, they are now labeling them cloud, serverless, and infrastructure as a service, serverless as a service. I don't know if this is also already a thing, but there's a lot of these things, and
I didn't see it.
Somehow these attract the engineers as well. So these are the subtitles of conferences currently. And so I think there's a large amount of excitement in that direction. And from our user group perspective, I can tell that we had several Docker talks and workshops, and also Kubernetes, and these are meetups which are quite fastly outsold in kind of from a seat perspective.
Right. People are, there's a lot of interest. So
and what I find a bit more interesting is that Docker is now really coming to 5 years already. And some now the ones who are not so interested in community and who are not have not that learning habit, they now just start also to realize, okay, this is something, it will stick. I heard it now 3-4 years, something fair, and now it's my time. Okay, I think I should add it to my tool set, and for them it's okay as well.
I agree, because it takes all of the different, the people that are not late adopters, they bring a valuable perspective to the story as well, because they are the ones who demand solid product,
rock solid,
maturity,
and standardized.
Sometimes. Right, industry standard at least. So like one of the things I did at JavaLand a few years ago was talking to Lufthansa. They are very heavily standards based. They have this thing which is the big book of standards, and you can't do anything in Lufthansa unless it's in the book of standards. And things don't go in the book unless they're mature and trusted and stuff. So it's good to have all perspectives. Cool, thank you.
It was my pleasure.
All right.
Thanks for asking, and we'll see you in a minute. I
Okay.
guess, at the dinner.
Yes. All right.